today.
Anyway, we'll start the meeting today. It's April 20, 2022. We welcome everyone wholeheartedly to the Rotary Club of New York, also named the Host Club of America by Paul Harris. The international breakfast usually takes place at the UN Church Center, but we are still not ready to meet in person. Therefore, we are very obliged to have our international visitors who therefore have also the opportunity to meet us here in the room today. Without further ado, I introduce to you our President, Gerard Schriffen.
Good morning, everyone from New York. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are this time of the day in the world. I guess with all of the horror news we're getting bombarded with from the Russian invasion into Ukraine, a lot of us, I think, missed some of the environmental news that came out in the past few weeks. Specifically, there have been alarming, to me at least, there have been some alarming news items dealing with the fact that scientists now realize literally there are microplastic particles inside the bodies of every single one of us, in our lungs, and in some cases, the particles are large enough to do damage to some of our organs. And even in the very depths of the ocean, 20,000 feet, they're finding samples of plastic pollution. So I think today's topic is very germane, an urgent topic, and worthy of everyone's attention. I'm going to let Malika Abreu, who is chair of our UN Breakfast Committee, do the honors of introducing our honored guest to us today. So Malika, please.
Thank you, President Gerard. I see at the outset, I wish to thank Ellen Reisler, who introduced us to this project. So thank you, Ellen, and good morning. I also want to acknowledge the presence of Joseph Clay, who used to chair this meeting a few years back, and I think who has initiated it, and all the other friends and members, like Birgitta for the first time is joining us, Bolor, a member of the board of directors, who has rejoining us from Mongolia. So hello, everybody.
And Malika, if I may interject, our sister club from Rome as well. One of our sister clubs
from Rome is here. Hello, Livia. Welcome everybody. I am so pleased since the Glasgow conference. I was planning on having having someone talk to us about where we are in terms of environment. And this is happening now. Meanwhile, unfortunately, there's a war that has occupied our thoughts. So this lecture takes place 2 days before Earth Day that we are going to celebrate on the 22nd of April. It also takes place at a time where the Director General of UNEP is the United Nations for Environment based in Nairobi. Mr. Inger Anderson, has initiated a UN Treaty on Plastic Pollution. It will be drafted and ready in March 2024. And also, I want to talk about the commitment, the strong commitment of the Rotary International President, Mr. Mehta, President Mehta, who is fully committed to pushing protection of the environment. In particular, he has launched a call for action to end plastic pollution, which now ranks first, followed by planting trees and solar energy. So our two speakers today are very important people in this effort. Maria Maria Rittenfeld, as she introduced to her earlier today, she is an educator. She's author of 2 textbooks for Dutch as a foreign language, a long-time columnist for regional radio stations in the German-Dutch border area. She was a language coach for German and Dutch companies, and in 2003, a founding member of the German-Dutch Rotary Club, with names that I cannot pronounce. Mulsen, Corvorden.
That's right.
In 2016-17, she served at the president of this club, and she is the initiator of the Rotarian event and Ryla's seminar, Proud to be European. In 2021, district governor of Rotary District 1850, board member of And Plastic Soup, chair of And Plastic Soup German chapter since July 2021. Our second lecturer is Gert Jan van der Molen, also born in the Netherlands, is co-founder and board member of the worldwide End Plastic Soup Initiative for Rotary to solve and prevent plastic pollution. So this is a custom tailor project, custom tailor initiative for Rotary clubs, which makes it very relevant to us. He is an experienced program manager and was consulting leader, technology services for the Benelux. Benelux is the group of countries that include Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg at IBM Corporation. He has a successful track record in the financial, public, healthcare, and industrial sectors. Is there anything left? I mean, he covers them all. Gert Jan is passionate about the circular economy, which is a concept that only he, I suppose, in this group can define. Next generation living, learning and building a future of inclusiveness. For Gert Jan, a very Rotarian approach indeed. For him, people matter in his hometown and also abroad. He's a Paul Harris Fellow, that we understand. Paul Harris Fellow with Rotary International and a member of the Dutch Royal Orange Nassau. Fellow Europeans, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Thank you for accepting to talk to us.
Yes. Well, we feel very honored, and Maria, maybe you can add a few words and then I start the presentation.
Yes, well, we are very glad that we can present And Plastic Soup in New York now. I think this is such a very important issue that we should talk about it all over the world in all Rotary clubs. And you are one of the main clubs and one of the most important clubs that we can talk to. So I hope that we can inspire you with our presentation. And Gert-Jan will start and I will just add some slides because he is the founder and he knows everything about it. As I was governor, I introduced And Plastic Soup in all clubs that I visited, and many of them, they became supporter or ambassador. And I was, because of the pandemic, I was able to talk to other districts too. I was invited in almost every district in Germany. So many German clubs know about And Plastic Soup, and we have really raised a big initiative here in Germany too. So thanks to Gert-Jan, who founded And Plastic Soup. I'm very happy and I'm proud to be here. Thank you so much.
Helen, you introduced us to your club, and maybe you want to say another word, or let's start with it.
I am so happy to have you here today, and I'm so happy that you're able to share this very important information with the members of my club. It's really astounding to find out that we're all walking around full of plastic. But I've been so impressed at the success of this project all over Europe. And it's such an easy, hands-on project to do, especially during crazy times like this, a pandemic. It's on the outside. So thank you so much for coming.
Okay, well, let me share the screen. I hope you can all see this.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. This will take about half an hour, and then we have another 20 minutes for question answers. The names are over here, and this is an initiative that was started in Amsterdam, but is now supported by hundreds and almost 2,000 clubs worldwide. Rotary, Rotaract, and Internet Act clubs, as it appeals very much to the younger generation. And I think the younger generation is also very important for all of us, because Rotary gets older, and it's very important, I think, that that we look to what appeals to young people. The title of this presentation is Plastic Impacts Climate Change, Biodiversity and or Health, and I will try to explain that. So first of all, the definition of End Plastic Soup. Plastic soup is all the plastic waste in our environment. So not just the plastic waste in the waters, like the oceans and the rivers, but all the plastic waste that's in our environment, in the air, on land, and in the sea. And this initiative is a global environmental initiative for Rotary to solve and prevent the plastic pollution. So yes, we know, if you look strictly, that we cannot remove and prevent all the plastic happening out there, but we want to stop the problem, as the problem is pretty important. And this is an example of a river you see in Indonesia. Asia is by far the worst in plastic pollution, not just by themselves, but we brought it there. And this is the island of Saparua and the Moluccan, which is an island very close to my hometown, which is 30 miles east of Amsterdam, as many people from Indonesia came to Holland after Holland gave up the colony in 1948. The real problem is that plastic never goes away. It just gets smaller. I sometimes compare it even to nuclear energy and nuclear waste, because that disappears after millions of years, but plastic is about the same. And because it gets smaller and smaller, it gets into our bodies, it gets into the bodies of all the living creatures on this planet. So plastic by now is seen in plankton and microbes all over the world. And when you have expeditions that fish out the plankton, which is between, you could say, about 1 inch to 1/10 of an inch, you see the plastic inside the bodies of this plankton. You can sometimes see it just by visible eye, and sometimes under the microscope. And plankton is so important for our planet. It takes care of 60 to 70% of the oxygen production of our planet. It's not the trees, it's not the forest, it's not the Amazon. That's only 30%. All the green vegetation only takes care of 30% of the oxygen production. The oceans are lungs, and the oceans also absorb carbon dioxide from the air. And that's being done by plankton. And many people don't know the amount of carbon dioxide absorption. And we can be very worried about, and we should be, about the emissions, because they raise the temperature. But the fact that the absorption and the oxygen production has been decreased by 40%, 40%, in the past 15 years is not very well known. And biologists do not fully agree on whether this is because of temperature rising already in the upper layer of the waters, or because of the density of the carbon dioxide in the air. But they also agree that plastic pollution inside the bodies is part of that cause, because the biodiversity, the number, you could say, the fertility of the plankton is decreasing. they just are not as many plankton anymore as they were in the oceans 15 years ago. The second part is that plastic is in our bodies. We have now seen the formally recognized signs that plastic enters our blood within 6 hours. So when you put crème on your shampoo or whatever, the microplastics are in there. They enter our bodies and they enter our organs and our brains within 24 hours after you put it on your skin. And we don't know what the effects of that are. We do know that it should not be there. And we do know that plastic itself might not be poisonous, but the 95 additives on plastic that gives it its characteristics like color, paint, or like weakness and foley, etc., they are poisonous. And they are being restricted by law in the US and Europe by so much can be added to them. But what we see is that these measurements, these measures, these norms are 6 times higher than they should be, which came out of the latest university and science research. So we are putting this to ourselves, and we see numerous new diseases that have not yet been proven. That will take another 2 years. But the structural impact of nylon, for example, on our immune system is tremendous. And nylon is in all our clothes. It's in the air. We breathe it every time. We have 6 kilos. I don't know exactly how many pounds that is in the US. I think about 12, 13 pounds of dust, plastic dust, in our living rooms a year. And 40% of that, by the way, are car tires. 30% are clothes, and the rest is all kind of different packaging, etc. So microplastics have a huge impact on climate change because of the absorption has been reduced, on biodiversity in land and sea, marine lives, not just by animals eating plastic inside our stomach, but especially because the fertility of living animals is decreasing rapidly. Also on our human health and our children. We've seen the latest research last year, October 2021 in the UK, where they investigated 6 healthy pregnant women, and they found that the plastic not only enters the placenta, but it came through the placenta into the unborn child. So the body of the unborn child, 3-4 months old, already had plastic particles in it. And especially they found red, green and yellow particles of paint in that body, which might not be that poisonous for an unborn child. We don't know, but it's for sure, 100% sure, impacts the androgen system, the hormone system of a child, which means that later on, the child will get into puberty 2 years early, is the current estimate. It will get into the menopause when it's a woman, a girl, 10 years early, and the fertility is already reduced by 20-25% for boys and girls. So our planet takes care of its own, and we as human beings will get less children. Not only our hormone system will change, and this can cause all kinds of effects. The forecast of the industry is that we will get 2 times more new plastic in the next 10 years. The forecast of the activists is it will be 3-4 times more. But we need new policies and legislation to have an equal playing field for the industry. We are not against plastic. We just want all of us to work together to find different ways of doing this. Because plastic packaging, which is together with single-use plastic, half of all the plastic pollution, has been increased so much in the past 10-15 years already. We cannot even process the plastic waste in our planet anymore. And we need to reduce this some way or another. When we see to the new plastics, we have at the moment 1 million new plastic bottles every minute on this planet. 1 million plastic bottles every minute. 60 minutes an hour, 24 hours in a day. you can do the calculations. It's incredible, and we should try to work together. And that's where this UN, United Nations Treaty on Plastic Pollution comes in. We are working together with them, and we will try to make the law in such a way that it gives the equal playing field, and we still have a comfortable life, but we will keep alive. So we thought Rotary, Rotaract and Interact can make a difference. And we see the evidence of that every week. We are so enthusiastic about this. And together, you know, this slogan, you could say, of Rotary, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe in our communities and ourselves. And when, as a European, I thought, well, this is marketing slogans. And I worked at IBM for many years, and I recognize this. But now I believe this. I truly believe this. And I can prove to you why this is true and why we as Rotarians together can make this come true. We did, and polio now, almost. Pakistan is now 14 months safe from new polio infections. Afghanistan, the Taliban closed the deal with Rotary and the United Nations to continue the vaccinations. So we're very hopeful, and we think that for plastic pollution, the results could be the same. So our ambition is by 2050, we have no more problem. And together, working together with our alliances worldwide, we have now 50 of them, we can solve and prevent this plastic pollution problem throughout the full cycle. So reduce, reuse, and recycle towards a circular economy where we can reuse all the materials. A short video, I hope this plays.
News of the plastics and pollution that are potentially destroying our planet are part of everyday life. Rotary had to act.
And this campaign is called End Plastic Soup Now.
A campaign that went viral with ambassador clubs now all over the world. We raise awareness in the local communities. We instigate small and large projects, from local litter picks to river and lake cleanups. And with the aid of project partnerships and our own global grants, we help fund sustainable collection and recycling projects. Through the power of Rotary, we can even lobby the big boys to change their ways. Find out more. Email endplasticsoup@gmail.com or visit our website.
So we have some objectives for the next 5 years or 4 years. And that's, first of all, education and awareness. Second, for clubs to take actions to make this awareness and find out new ways of doing things. Reduce plastic, reuse. Don't change your clothes every time. Don't buy as many new clothes. And have plastic-free events and actions. And share and accelerate solutions. So we do that by supporting global grants and by the means of our ambassador clubs now in 43 countries worldwide. So awareness is key, and then action and alliances working together with other companies. And then we have lots of innovations, and the innovations go in education, new ways of doing things, but also in alternatives and in cleanups, recycling and corporations. We work together with the Plastic Soup Foundation on research on plastic health, or health and plastic pollution, but also, for example, with a great company in the Philippines that recycles plastic in a great way, even produce, you can see them here. Oh, sorry for this. I could not find my, gosh. I hope, yes, there it is. You can see it here in the end, the chairs for children. They produce 300,000 chairs for schools already. And I think it's a great possibility. And this is the villa I talked about earlier with Malika that has been built. And now we build tiny houses that can be used by young people in areas where there's just a little bit space, and it's all made from plastic with the inside of wood, because it has to be healthy living circumstances. And very important is the corporations at the bottom right side, that we now close memo of understandings, for example, with all the Balkan countries, the former Yugoslavian countries, but also with Russia. In the middle of the war in the Ukraine, Russian Rotarians and the past DG Ildus from last year approached us and said, Gert-Jan, can we now start this project you initiated earlier and do this together with the Ukrainian clubs and the clubs from Georgia, Romania and Bulgaria, clean the Black Sea. And we will take care as Russian Rotarians that after the soldiers are gone and the war is over, they actually use the word war. Yeah, we think that they cannot say anything from Putin, but they are pretty, how I say that, in favor of peace. And he said, well, we will take care of the demining of the coastal lines, and maybe together we can do something. Then Marja, maybe up to you to tell something about this project.
Yeah, I'd love to. Most people think that plastic pollution is a problem in the developing countries. Well, what we see here is in Europe, not far from Germany and the Netherlands, in a region in former Yugoslavia where many people nowadays spend their holidays. In February 2021, the energy supply was in danger because of waste in the river Drina near Visegrad in Bosnia-Herzegovina. The rubbish pressed against the dam wall and had to be removed urgently. Thanks to the Rotary Club in Aachen, this waste collecting boat could save the dam. The problem here is a missing waste management system. People just leave their rubbish near the river, and when it rains, it is washed into the river. Rotary clubs in Germany apply for a global grant now, consisting education in schools, creating awareness among the population, working together with the authorities to build a waste management and recycling system, and of course, cleaning the river Drina with the Collectix boat. We still need some support and would be very glad if your club could also help us to finance this grant. The grant project could be a blueprint for many other countries in the Balkans, so it's quite important. We will show you a short video now where you can see what was done in 2021. At the moment, the Collectix boat is in Romania, and Plastic Soup and Rotary clubs there are involved too. And it are not just Rotary clubs that support us, but also Rotarians with their companies, like another mission that is actually done in Cambodia. Only together we can stop this big, big problem.
Pollution. Polluted beyond belief. This is the Visegrad Dam on the river Drina in Bosnia-Herzegovina. February 2021. Cleanup mission begins with the Collectix boat. This is the first of many projects for Collectix and End Plastic Soup. Coverage from the press came from Europe and as far away as the Washington Post. Rotary Aachen is the coordinating Rotary club on this project. A huge challenge to clear the plastic waste from a highly polluted area. Currently, End Plastic Soup cleanup actions are taking place on the River Danube in Serbia, and we plan to start a follow-up project in Bosnia-Herzegovina in November 2021. Not only will this remove much of the pollution, but it will also include an education and awareness program. End Plastic Soup in action.
And we have more projects, about 20 of them. I will just show you a few of them. This is the Clean River Nile in Egypt. It's a 10-year program with a project every club year, because we all change our presidents every year. So for Rotary clubs, it's really good to have a clear view, a clear concrete action to do that year. So last year we started giving 230 fishermen's nets to the fishermen's families over there. And this year we start also with a boat that attacks the hotspots in the Nile. And by doing this in a, you could say, a slow mode, you also protect the 1 million people that live in Cairo on the plastic waste. So we cannot move faster because then we would destroy their lives. But you get so much action, and the fishermen families doubled their income because Rotary had a refund system on the plastic waste and showed them how to make bags out of the waste they in the river, and they can sell that. And I think it's a very good example of awareness, prevention, cleaning, and recycling. Another example, maybe Mario, you can tell about Ghana.
Yeah, here you see a project that we have started with one of our German cooperation partners, Technology Without Borders, which has been founded by a Rotarian a couple of years ago. Before the pandemic, this organization already started an initiative in schools in Ghana in Africa. People drink their daily water out of small water sachets, so small plastic bags. After drinking, these small plastic bags are just thrown away on the streets. People are not aware of the fact that plastic should not be in nature, but can be recycled. And therefore, Technology Without Borders had started this project to create awareness about plastic pollution among students. Because of COVID, the project was stopped, but now with Plastic Soup and Rotary Act clubs in Ghana, the initiative has started again. The aim is to educate millions of students in Ghana, let them collect their plastic waste in bins, you see it in the middle of the picture, and then recycle the plastic, which is a good possibility because it's very clean. There was only water in it. Creating awareness is one of the main things we can and should do. Next generation should know about the risks and danger of plastic pollution.
Thank you. And we're talking about 30,000 school students here. Eh? So primary school, it's quite a lot. It's a whole system in order to provide this education.
Yeah.
This is another example of recycling. There's a recycling factory in Almere, which is just very close to my hometown. And there's the Floriade Expo, just started last week till October. So whenever one of you has the plan to come over to Holland, please pay us a visit. We are there at the Floriade Expo, which started just after Dubai. It's once every 10 years. And the World Exposition now shows growing green cities, which includes pollution, it includes water, it includes food, but it also includes the recycling of plastic. And this house is an example made of the household plastic that was collected in that town. And it's an example of how the house can look like. And we are now building new houses. And in the end, we think this could also be a good business case for people abroad in developing countries. First of all, because we use mixed plastic, which is the dirty plastic, and there are additives added to it, so it doesn't leak into nature. It is hurricane and earthquake proof, and you can just put it anywhere. And it's safe to live in because it meets all the European standards for healthy living, you could say. And it's cheap, it's pretty cheap. And you can do it yourself. You see me here on the picture. It's an easy training. So we think Plastic Soup start today and do it together. And we appeal to the young generation. This is something that is not bounded to cultures or to a specific generation. Everyone wants the same. And when people want the same, which is the case in plastic pollution, we all do not want it out there, then the energy starts flowing. And then we can do and accomplish a lot together. And that's what we think can be delivered now. Maybe Mario, you can explain about the apps?
Well, at Plastic Soup, we created a plastic bingo app, which is a kind of a game. You can play it with your family or with friends. You just walk around, take a picture, and if you have all the pictures, you have learned a lot about what is plastic pollution. And it makes a lot of fun. And even as a club, you can have a kind of een wedstrijd, a game of it.
Yeah.
And another very important, the Plastic Bingo app is just to create more awareness. My Little Plastic Footprint is an app to rethink and reduce no single-use plastic. And you can see whatever you do in your own household and create more awareness and create, I think, more awareness for the things that you can do yourself. And Beat the Microbeat app, that's something you can better explain because I did not use it now, but I think you can scan
you can just
yeah.
scan with your mobile the label on your products that you have, and it shows you if there is a lot of microplastics in it. So whether it's in shampoo or soap or anything else, and tells you whether it's red, amber, or green, and what kind of plastics, microplastics are in there. And you would be surprised how much plastic cosmetics or lipstick, etc., contain, and more or less you putting this on your face and into your body. The My Little Plastic Footprint that Maya told about has also a very new concept called the Plastic Mass Index, PMI, not the BMI, the Body Mass Index, how heavy you are, but how much plastic you use and whether you are good or worse for the planet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they are all for free. You can download them for free. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can start today. Yeah. It's just by downloading them on your mobile. We have awareness actions days worldwide, where all the clubs that participate in End Plastic Soup are more or less inspiring each other. You can show the flag with your own club name on it, and you can show how much we are people of action. On top left, you see the Rotaract clubs in Kampala in Uganda. Left down is India, and in the middle is Ecuador. And there's a lot happening, and I think we give the ideas, we share the ideas with each other every 6 weeks in our Ambassador Club call, and in that way you really inspire each other. 4th of June is the End Plastic Soup Action Day worldwide, and I think together we can do quite a lot to make people aware what they can do themselves. And of course we are also present in Houston during the International Convention in a booth in the House of Friendship, and I myself will be here in Almere where we have a big event, hopefully with a live connection to Houston. Maya, over to you.
Yeah. Together with young ambassadors, we create even more impact. These young girls, it are girls, no boys at the moment, are talented young people who, like End Plastic Soup, are committed to fighting plastic pollution and creating a better environment for all of us. They come from different parts of the world and are quite famous for their actions and projects. I point out a few of them. For instance, the siblings Weissen. They have founded Bye Bye Plastic Bags in Indonesia, an initiative driven by youth to say no to single-use plastic bags. Or Eliana Wanyinku from Kenya. At the age of 10, she was recognized as the youngest climate change ambassador and therefore awarded as the youngest Paul Harris Fellow in the world. Amy and Ella Meek have founded Kids Against Plastic in England. Kids Against Plastic aims to help young people to learn about environmental issues, such as plastic pollution and the climate crisis. They have developed their own educational programs for schools, have created their own kids clubs, and even more. We want to make them part of our End Plastic Soup network. They will be our future leaders and deserve our support. We will support the activities and projects of the young activists. The young ambassadors will raise awareness of End Plastic Soup on their social media. Together, we have more impact and we create even more awareness. I would like to show you a video made by Nina from Java, Indonesia. As our End Plastic Soup ambassador, she has already been invited to a meeting of the G7 Working Group Climate and Environment under the presidency of Germany this year. So because she is our ambassador, she was recognized and she was invited. The video is made not far from the place where she lives.
Dear global leaders, We need a global plastics treaty. Take it from someone who already living in the reality of plastic crisis. Plastic is everywhere, in the sea, in the air we breathe, in the water we drink, and even in our bodies. The treaty must address all the ways that plastic pollutes, from when it's made to when it's wasted, starting with producing less plastic and stopping plastic waste exports to my country and the rest of the global south. I'm fighting for the healthy and clean world, free from plastic pollution. I want the global leaders to take serious action to fight climate crisis and plastic pollution for the sake of the future generation. It's time to act. No more empty promises. We need a full cycle, legally binding plastic treaty now.
Yeah, so our young ambassadors, they are really strong young people and they deserve that we support them.
And
Wherever
very
they-
positive. Yeah,
Yeah.
very positive people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So start today by downloading some of the apps, by looking at the videos that are included in this PowerPoint that I've sent over to Andreas, and hopefully be shared with you so that you can look at it yourself in your own pace. And please become a participating club of End Plastic Soup. We invite you to become a supporter for €200 or $200 a year, or even an ambassador in your district, so that you can help us to grow, but also help us to spread the message. And in that respect, we think that every Rotary Club, like it's the case, is independent, and you decide on your approach and your priority in your area. And of course, you can also support our projects. But what we really like is that you help us to bring the message in the best way possible in your own region, because we cannot judge from where we are what is appealing in the US or in the state of New York. And you are much better equipped to do that in a friendly and cooperative manner. So please join us, and that brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I will close the sharing now. Thank you.
Wow.
Well, if I may, both Maria and Gert, I think that you have spotlighted what is the major contribution of your group. Through my experience involved in environmental issues for the past, oh my goodness, 35 years in the United States and Canada, I've always seen that the real issue is that the regulators, meaning our governments, are most often captured by the regulated, meaning that the corporations that are causing the problem know how to, using an American euphemism, English euphemism, prime the pump and get their way with government. And that leaves us always as the victims. So I'm really very, very excited to hear of your project, because I know from personal experience that you are the ones who make the change, not your governments, you. And your governments have to always be led into the battle, almost like you lead a cow with a hook through the nose, to get them to do the right thing. And it's only by opening the window and letting the sun in and doing what the both of you are doing that people become aware of just how serious these issues are, and that this is not something that can be put on the back burner. This is something that has to be dealt with immediately. So kudos to you. Thank you so much for your work. I will be in contact with both of you. And I know that there are people in our club, Helen and others, I'm sure, who will help us deal with this issue here. We tend to think sometimes in the United States, especially in New York, oh, this is a terrible problem in Indonesia. This is terrible. I see this in parts of Africa, undeveloped countries. And probably there's no worse place for an example of plastic pollution than a place like New York City. And most New Yorkers are suffering from plastic pollution and aren't even aware of it.
Yeah, it's in the air. It's in the air. Yeah,
it's in the air. It's in our. I don't know if you get this in Europe. There's a magazine in the United States, Consumer Reports. Their headline story this month in April is how all of the plastic that we use to wrap our foods, especially fast foods, all of it, without exception, and they name the companies and the wrappers, are leaching toxins into our body on a regular basis. The plastic lining inside canned foods, so that we're not aware.
And
that
because of research, we are smarter than we are currently doing. So when we share the university studies and the research, which the plastics industry has not done yet, they are so powerful in their revenue, 100 times more powerful than the weapons industry and the tobacco industry together. And they follow the same concepts: delay the research, deny any results, etc. And this should not be, because we are not against the plastics industry. We are not against doing things in a smart way, but we can do better. For example, we now can produce, since about 3-4 years, clothes without nylon in it. It's easy, it doesn't cost much. And I told this to Melika last night, women are wearing bras, and maybe it's too private to tell, but half of our population are women, yeah? And all bras in the world have nylon in them, 5% nylon, even the very expensive ones. And for less than $1, you can make them without nylon. And it is now not yet a fact, like we say in the 4-way test, but the structural evidence is so overwhelming that we now understand that nylon has an impact on the skin and the tissue of your breasts. It has a structural relationship with breast cancer, and we should try to avoid that. It doesn't mean that you get breast cancer, etc., from plastic, but the structural evidence is too much. So let's convince our industry to build new products, new clothes, etc., and do the steps step by step that we can take easily. And for you and for all of us, it's single-use plastic. So let's try, when we buy something of single-use plastic, when it's a plastic bag or whatever, try to use it at least 4 times. Yeah. Let's try to not wash our clothes every time. I personally think we should not sell any more clothes in the shops that have not been pre-washed in a factory, so that most of the dust is already gone and captured. And we can do that. So by being smarter, I think we can solve a lot of these problems. And when we do it step by step, we can still keep our welfare and keep everybody happy.
And
Mari, I was impressed with that young lady from Indonesia, because I think you know better than everyone else that children are very powerful when they're motivated. Yeah. And they very often, my experience, and I'm sure yours as well, they are more upset about this than their parents, the adults.
Yeah, well, this is their future. And
correct.
You know, they are so wonderful examples how the young generation acts now and thinks now, and we want to support them. This is so important for us, but also for Rotary, because they are the Rotarians of tomorrow. They are the next generation. And I wanted to add what Gert-Jan just said. Of course, if we held our presentation, there are Rotarians who own a company that makes those plastic bags, and they are all on our side. They are not against us. They are working together with us. So we, as Rotarians, as Rotary clubs, we can really make bigger steps than we are just doing now. They are just small, but we can even do bigger steps, because if we recognize the problem and we all say yes to it, then the change is there, you know?
Helen, you have a question?
Yes, I wanted to, how many of us knew that all these plastic bags could turn into houses? We didn't know that. I mean, it's very important.
Well, we don't want to tell the plastics industry, yeah? Let's not use new plastic to build houses. That will be the
No, of course not. No, I'm talking about recycling, of course.
Yes.
About recycling. It's absolutely amazing. just amazing. And I love this project because it's action oriented. And the action packages that you have developed are absolutely fascinating. I mean, it's not just statistics, some facts that we knew already, but what we can do about it, and it point by point advice on how to go about it. And here in Rotary, we could have an outing, all members, to pick up, bags on a beach in Brooklyn, and that's feasible. To just give an example.
Oh,
And
maybe,
yes,
maybe,
Maria.
maybe give the floor to Helen and to George.
Only one addition. If Rotarians don't want to pick up the garbage, which is okay, then please have information events or ask others to collect it and be there with a cup of coffee and with some information. So support others, support Rotary Act clubs. They like to collect the garbage. So,
mobilize children in schools.
Yeah,
I saw some hands who
Helen?
I wanted to ask a question. I noticed there's a company manufacturing sweaters made from recycled plastic. Now, if a person wears one of these sweaters, can the plastic get into their system? Is it dangerous?
I don't know, but if you can give me the company's name, we can try to do research on that, because we do know what additives to add so that it doesn't leak into nature and also not into your bodies. But first of all, recycling sweaters are not worse than normal clothes because they all contain specific plastics.
I was concerned especially because I had ordered a couple.
Are in there. Yeah. Well, I think first of all, it's not worse, but it depends on what type of plastic is being used and what additives did they use to prevent this. I think they did some research on that, but it could be good to challenge them and find out, because we know companies that know how to do this in a good way, and then we can advise even the company, if you would add a little bit of this, then the problem is even 1,000 times less.
Thank you.
Yes, Scarlett?
Thank you so much. In this world where so much of what we listen to is negative and frightening and pessimistic for children and all of us, this is a wonderful, optimistic, hopeful path. And I know there are many grandchildren who have grandparents that are very worried about their future and their environment. So this would be a wonderful way to bond with small children. How young do you think a child could be? I mean, I'm thinking very young, actually, to participate in some way and start to feel useful.
Yeah, the best way to make an impact is like 8-year-old children, because they will never forget for their lives. And then they can be your next generation to find new innovations and new possibilities to do things in a different way. But of course, you can start very small. When they're very young, you just should take into account that they are going to educate you. So, like they do in Indonesia at the moment, in the Moluccan, we have this organization, Bye Bye Plastic Bags, is so famous in their part of the world that when we raised them in the Philippines in the Manila Presidential Conference at end of November, the organizing committee, this was the best organized event ever for Rotary, with 20,000 participants. And they said, "Do you know Melati Wijsen?" I said, "Yes." "Could we have her as keynote speaker to our president's conference?" I said, "Well, I can ask her." And then we continued talking. So I sent an app to Melati, and she responded within a minute. I said, "Of course." And I said, "Well, it's arranged. Melati can come." And so children really make a difference. And but then we teach these books now in the Moluccan, and on these islands, they tell their parents, Well, the plastic doesn't appear when you flush it out in the river and flush it out in the ocean, because it still sticks there. It's just a few meters under the water level. So we educate more people than just the children. Yeah.
And there even are programs for children in kindergarten, so you can start very early.
So we have George
children
and
are very
Joseph.
good educators.
Yeah.
Joseph? Joseph, unmute yourself, Joseph. Joe?
And don't forget George, after all, Malika.
Excuse me?
Don't forget George, he has raised his hand
Yes.
for a long time.
Okay, Joe. Joseph, unmute yourself, Joe. Okay. Meanwhile,
George, maybe you can take.
Joe,
Okay.
Joe,
Anyway,
maybe you can, while Joseph, okay, yeah.
so I just want to applaud you for this wonderful presentation. The issue of environmental degradation and polluting of the climate in our world is not something that is new, but the fact that you've come up with this idea how to remedy it, I think is a good thing. And I'm sure that with the Rotary Club involvement, that something could be done to reach out to our government to say, listen, we need to do something before more health issue becomes a problem for us. But I'm wondering, you know, in terms of us our over-reliance on China for some of the things we use, how far have your gospel spread to China as far as how do we remedy or make sure that the products exported to the United States and elsewhere is done in such a way that this environmental issue doesn't become a havoc to the world?
First thing is that everyone, really everyone, including people in China, Russia, etc., thinks about this in the same way. We all see the problem. We don't want to have this problem. So now the remedy is to find the industry and the governments to work on actions together to really reduce the plastic. And I think we had an ambassador in Hong Kong, because the change in Hong Kong that is now changed again. We're looking to Shanghai, but Rotary is not very present in China, so that's more difficult. But I think in Asia, many people are aware. We also introduced that problem to them by introducing plastic packaging. Somebody invented this 40, 50 years ago, when it all was causing this high consumption culture that we have created in the West and now exported to Asia and developing countries. In Asia themselves, they are confronted with the importing of plastic waste from countries like the US, Holland, UK, Germany, Indonesia, and this is the same in the US, 25% of the plastic waste that you are producing and collecting in your bins at home, and that are being then taken by the waste management companies, is being exported to Indonesia and Ghana and South Africa. This was more when it was still exported to China and Vietnam, etc. China forbid it, Vietnam forbid it, Turkey forbid it, but it's still in Holland and Germany, 25% of all the plastic waste that's collecting from our households. And it's being recognized by the European Union under the definition of recycling, because when you export it to a company on paper, you sign a contract that that company takes care of the recycling, you can count it as recycling, while 98% ends up in the river over there. They have no infrastructure to do it. They put it on landfills. Small children burn the copper electrical wires to melt the plastic of it so that they have copper left and they can sell it. And most children, they live, for example, in the close area of this Nina that you saw, they do not live beyond the age of 30 because of their lungs are being sick. The last 15 years of their small lives, short lives, 50% of their lives, they are sick and then they die. And we let this happen. And then we say, well, Asia produced most of the pollution. but we are also causing that. So let's start at home by using right definitions. We don't hurt anybody by having right definitions. In Holland, we even have a lot of burning of plastic wastes because the waste energy firms say, waste management firms say it's too dirty. Somebody puts a plate of spaghetti in it and then you cannot recycle the plastic. And then they burn it, but it's just a case of money. They get more money from the incinerators than when they recycle it.
That's a very good point. I'm glad you brought that point up, because one of the problems with recycling is that people forget basic physics we learned in high school. We cannot create matter. We also cannot destroy matter. All we can do is change the physical form of it. So we can take a solid like plastic and turn it into a gas by incinerating it. And a lot of companies that call themselves recycling companies, waste management in the United States and worldwide being one of the major, recycle plastic by burning it. And that is more harm than actually leaving the plastic alone, because now you've broken the plastic down into all the chemical compounds like lead and cadmium, and you create a new chemical.
Carbon dioxide emission.
Carbon dioxide. And all of this then is, we breathe it in. And it causes tremendous amounts of damage. In your own country, I remember back in the 1990s in Rotterdam, there's an incinerator, solid waste to energy incinerator, and it created so much dioxin, which is the most deadly poison in the world, by burning plastics, that the government in Amsterdam literally had to pay the farmers around Rotterdam not to produce dairy products and cheese because it was all contaminated with dioxin. And the same thing has happened in Belgium. I know it's a big problem in Germany. It's certainly a huge problem here in the United States, where people are sold a bill of goods. Well, we can recycle plastic, when they're really not recycling it. They're just changing it from a solid into a gas. And now they make it even more toxic than it was from the beginning. So recycling has to be done in a very environmentally conscious way. And incineration is not the way to recycle it.
Yeah, and a more scientific way, so that we know that we don't make the problem bigger than it was.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Joseph, have you unmuted yourself?
Yes, and he remuted. Unmute yourself, Joseph, again.
Lower left-hand side, you can unmute yourself.
That's the video. Joseph? Yes, you're there. You can speak now.
Okay,
Yeah, so good.
I have a question. Does your program also include cooperation with the private sector, with the companies to replace plastic? Because I think that would be a major strategy to get rid, or not to get rid, but to reduce the amount of plastic. And particularly as Rotarians, we have so many managers as members who are in charge of companies, and could try that you could establish a new project just to show them how to replace plastic. Like in the old days, we used paper cups, and also the package was either paper or paper. So my question is that part of your program?
Yes, it is. The private sector is very important, like the authorities, like all of our consumers, all of us. And the private sector has different possibilities. First of all, they can create different products. And second, they can also have a business case that supports this so-called circular economy, so that they can earn their money in a different way. And we think in 10 years from now, half of their jobs will be in that circular economy. So it's not something that you can deny. It's something different. When you get Amazon to ship products to your home, it's being wrapped in plastic, etc. But now we should send the products back to Amazon. And the same is for China with Alibaba. Yeah, if you produce to get just a single part and it's packaged in so much plastic, we think we can send all the plastic back to China. They do the same with our waste. Say you cannot enter waste anymore. Let's send the plastic back to Amazon and to Alibaba. But in order to get the private sector moving, we need to find ways of making it into a business justification. There's one company, Avantis, that has been produced now a different material called PEF, P-E-F, not PET, where the bottles are made of. And that plastic is not plastic, it's new material. It's being made not just from organic material like bioplastics, but it's degradable within 14 months when you put it outside on the street, even in low temperatures. So then it's gone. Yeah? And that's Quaker, as they say. It's now being built, and by 2024, this new material will be made, but it's just 1% of a big polyethylene factory that's being now made, being produced in Antwerp, that's already starting to produce plastics next year from oil imported from the United States. And that's creating 10% more new plastics capacity into the world. So we should have regulations as well, not just leave it up to the private companies, but the private companies, especially the medium and small business companies, can come up with innovations, ideas, and change this way that we are doing now.
And of
One
course,
of our, I think Tatiana wrote in the chat room, she said, my city, Dallas, which is in Texas, had passed a law banning plastic bags as shopping bags in stores. It lasted for about a month. It was struck down by the state of Texas. Well, Tatiana, this is an example again of how government is, the regulators are captured by the regulated. Unfortunately, Texas, which is not unusual in this respect, is controlled by business. And business people can go into Austin, into the state legislature, and for a small amount of money, and I'm putting this as bluntly as I can, bribe the legislators to do the business that business wants them to do. So it's up to people like you and us to hold government's feet to the fire, literally, and tell them, well, the bottom line is the corporations have the money to give to you, but you won't be there if we don't vote for you. Yeah. And the bottom line is we put you there and we can take you out of there. Republican, Democrat doesn't make a difference. They're all the same. They're all susceptible to whatever this is.
Share the ideas, Gerard, that we can give them to find the solutions.
Absolutely.
This is dilemma thinking. One side you're being captured by the private business. Other side you have your voters, but we can find a new way in between so that you can help both of them. And
compromise works. Yeah, absolutely correct.
No, it's not a compromise. It's a new way of thinking.
It's a new way of doing things. Yes. Yeah. Another, they can still make money while making environmental change. Doesn't mean you go out of business. It just means you can still make money, but in a different way.
Yeah. And I want an addition to the question of Joseph. We have an advisory board where people from, for instance, from universities, but also from politics are united, and they inform us so that we can share the new thoughts, the new ideas with all our members. And this is very important, I think. And yes, there are some people from the industry also. So if we cooperate as Rotarians, we can really make bigger steps. That's what I told you before. And I hope we will do in future. Yeah.
Maria, correct me if I'm wrong, but does not Germany already have a law, at least in the state of Bayern, that manufacturers who produce all of this excessive wrapping, plastics and cardboard, they have to, it's sent back to them and they have to dispose of it?
It's the same as it was in Texas. It was a couple of years ago. It was, that was a law, but people didn't want it, and or they didn't do it. And the companies didn't want to take it back. So the law was skipped again. Yeah.
I have to ask a timeout because I have to be in another meeting
Well,
Yeah.
there's one other
Participating
question.
for our 400 refugees here in my hometown from Ukraine. Yeah, so we are taking care and taking shelter for them.
Good
And
for
the other thing I
you.
want to say is that in my club, we now gained 14 new members in the past 3 years because of End Plastic Soup. We attract people, they see a different Rotary, and they want to be part of that. And I think it really helps to gain new and young members. Last one was 31 years old, the one before 33 years old. So we suddenly see a new Rotary club growing, and that's only due to the focus on environment and plastic soup.
Very
Jan,
good point.
There's one question in the chat. Would it be possible to turn plastic into inexpensive road paving materials? And yesterday we already talked about it, that it's leaking, so it's not the right solution,
Good
right?
way, yeah.
It
They
was
do it
done,
in
this
India
was,
and
as a
Brazil.
matter of fact, this was done in Belgium, where they took the ash from the incinerators and made paving blocks from it. And all of the dioxins and lead and cadmium in the paving blocks leached into the soil. So no, this is not, unfortunately, this is not a way to do it.
Yeah, and that's not even the worst thing, because it's the ashes from the incinerators are very different material. So you could prevent things, but the worst things are happening now in India and Brazil, where they just mix plastic waste with concrete to build highways. And they win all the tenders because it gets 8% cheaper that way, but it's rubbish. You can never remove that again. We had an experience in Holland, in a very beautiful area in the north, where they built biking paths out of how to say that, this I forgot, asbestos. Is asbestos the English word? Yeah.
Yes,
Asbestos.
Asbestos,
causing
yes.
cancer, and they made biking paths in one of the most beautiful nature parks because asbestos was so cheap. And they did this in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and then they found out in the 80s that asbestos was really cancer generating. And now they spent millions and millions removing these bike paths, and they had to remove miles of bike paths, all of it in a very difficult way. It's impossible to remove that infrastructure once you build it. You find out that the plastic additives that you mixed with the concrete can cause different diseases that we now see, mental disease, whatever. So don't do it.
Yep. Thank you so much for your time today, and we will follow up with this.
Yes, and let's look at the promising possibilities that there are, because we are now uniting people, we are inspiring people, and the young people inspire us. But what's now happening in Sudan and Ethiopia because of the dam in the Nile, what was happening in Bosnia-Herzegovina because of the Bosnian Serbians wanting to start war again, that they started in 1990, and we asked help, and our projects do help bringing people together, and that's where Rotary is for. I won't say that plastic creates peace, but at least create collaboration. And when I then had this on the 29th of March, I had this conversation with the Russian clubs, 9 of them, and they were so enthusiastic and they were so honest about the war of Putin. They said, this is Putin's war, this is not Russian war. Yeah. No. I hope this one way or the other will lead to a different world. So thank you.
Yes, and let's think about our Russian fellow Rotarians. They are they are us. We are one world of Rotarians, whether Russian or Ukrainian. The ambitious goal of reaching by 2050 a world without plastic very quickly. Is it feasible?
Well, we said the same. I told you last night that we have an energy problem in the world.
Yeah, but for our fellow,
and I think we will fix that because of innovations. So we now have hydrogen in powder form. Nobody had heard about it. You haven't heard about it, but it's the perfect battery for flying electrically. And within 10 years from now, we have a different world where you don't have fly shame, as they say, but you can be proud to sit in an airplane that flies on green energy. And the
We
same is
are-
happening to plastic. Yeah.
We are with you, and you heard it from President Gerard. We will contact you again. I suppose we will continue working on this.
Okay.
Thank you very much for accepting to come and talk to us. We have enlightened us, and it's very refreshing to really debate a very concrete problem that we are facing. And 2 days away from Earth Day, I think it's very opportune. Thank you again. And we have, I mean, we were supposed to finish 15 minutes ago, but we said yesterday that we could have another session, maybe in September or October, and see what we have done since, and from time to time, just checking on the progress we are making in this initiative.
Thank you very
Gerard,
much.
you have the last word.
Well, I thank everyone for being with us today. And I think this has been in the back of my mind for a long time. So I thank both of you, Maria and Ertjan. Thank you very much for bringing this to our attention and giving us this update. I know that I will proceed with this, follow up on it as I have promised, and I will hope that our new president, Levent, and our board will continue with this, because this, to me, is, and I will use the word emergency.
Yeah, that's the right
To me,
word.
this is an emergency that requires immediate attention. It's not something we can put in the background and say we'll get to it someday. We might not be here one day because of it.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Or we don't have children and grandchildren anymore. Yeah, right. And it gives opportunities, because you discover when you do this, you meet so many people, you find new ways of dealing with climate change, you find new ways of dealing with energy transition. It's all kind of possibilities that come into our lives, and that help us to make the right moves.
You mentioned something about grandchildren. Very briefly, I'll tell you, back in 1996, one of the 5 parts of New York City, we call them boroughs, they're like counties, Staten Island, the borough president of Staten Island at the time, Mr. Guy Molinari, hired me because they had a problem. They were very upset about the fact that in 1995, 1996, 70% of all of the children who were born in Staten Island were born with toxic levels of lead in their blood. How is this possible? And at the time, Staten Island thought it was because there was a sanitation dump, a landfill in Staten Island when New York City put its garbage. They thought that's where it came from. In fact, I showed them it came from plastic. Right across the line in New Jersey, there are 2 huge incinerators that were burning millions of pounds of plastic, and all of that lead, that cadmium, the dioxin, all of that was being carried by the wind over Staten Island. And that's why up to 70% of the children were born with toxic levels of lead. It came from plastic. So
we make improvements step by step.
Okay. Yep, precisely. Thank you again.
Very much.
And thank you, Malika. Doing a great job as usual.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And after Glasgow, we're going to have Sharm el Sheikh. And right after that, I think that it would be very appropriate to come together again.
Thank you very much.
So have a great spring and summer, and see you in the fall.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
Helen.
you,
Maria.
Bye-bye, Helen. Thank you, Andreas.
Bye. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Our pleasure.